In the last video, we were making a timestamp application that perhaps maybe our employees could log into. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the terminal, and we're going to navigate to this directory right here that's on the desktop. And let me open up this directory so we can see what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and cd into the desktop, and then I'll go to this directory, which is time clock. And then I'll run another command on the same line. I'm going to go ahead and open this in an application of my choice, which is going to be Google Chrome. And then finally, the file that we want to open with Chrome, which in this case is index.html. So that'll open up over here. And we are logging our timestamps to a database known as Firebase, and it's a NoSQL Firebase offering from Google. So I'm logged into my account. You can go ahead and log into your account as well, which you should have if you are following along so far. So I'll go into the timestamp database, and I'll go inside the database. And the internet's pretty slow here, so I'll apologize for that. Always do. So let's go ahead and open these two things side by side. So we have our application right here, and we have our database here. And there's actually data here. The internet's just so bad that it's not populating yet. There we go. So we have our timestamp table. And if you see when we push this login button, we're going to be adding values to the timestamp table. So we have some issues with this so far. While these timestamps aren't in a format that we can easily read, not only that, but administrative employees that need to look at perhaps other employees' timestamps aren't going to be able to log into a database, typically the backend like this, and just go ahead and start reading the data. They're going to need a more user-friendly version of viewing this, and perhaps we'll do that in another web page. So let's go ahead and do that by copying what we had already, the index.html. We'll paste it, and we'll just rename this to an arbitrary name for now, which is going to be employee timestamps. Employee timestamps. And then we'll go inside this code, and we'll start editing it real quick before we open it up on in a browser. So we're going to change some stuff like employee timestamps here for the title. Guys, I don't know what it is. It's probably 2 words. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. We'll put it here as well. And then just to be a little bit fancier, we're going to put a horizontal line. And then we will delete this line of code here that puts a login button function. And then we'll also go ahead and delete that login button. And before we do, let me go ahead and delete this whole column. Before we do too much, and we'll rename this div to employee timestamps. And div, might as well. So before we go ahead and start adding too much code, we're going to go ahead and open up this application in Chrome. So I'll right click it and open up with Chrome. Again, we could have done it from the terminal. So here we see that we have just a pretty much basic page. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to log all those values from the database onto this web page right here that we just created. So if we go ahead and look at Firebase, we're going to want to look at reading data JavaScript, and we'll go ahead and search that. And then you see it's going to tell you how to read and write data on the web. And this is all going to be referenced in JavaScript. So we can go down and we can see where it says that we don't want to read data once. We want to go ahead and listen to some events on whatever we're reading. So that means that whenever data is added or deleted, we're going to be notified of that within the application itself. So we'll go ahead and copy whatever they have here, and we'll paste it on the bottom of our application right here. And we'll just go ahead and indent a little bit. And instead of calling this star count ref, I'll just go ahead and do it employee timestamp ref. And then this right here is going to correspond to the table name in the database. So in our case, we'll go back to, we'll actually have to open up the Firebase database. So go to Firebase, and then Alright, so we have the database open, and we see that the table name is just timestamp, so these two values are going to have to correspond with each other. And we're not going to go into a specific child at this moment. We're just going to get all the values within that table. So I'll just leave the reference name as timestamp, and then since we changed this variable right there, we're going to go ahead and have to replace it with employee reference on. And so right now, all we're going to want to go ahead and do is we're going to want to go ahead and log the values to the console. So I'll go ahead and log every value in that snapshot right there. So let me open up the inspector right here, and then I'll refresh the page, open up the console, and we should see all the values in the database getting logged to the web page. So it might be a lot of information for now, so I'm going to go ahead and delete the database, and then, or sorry, the table, and then I'm going to log 3 more values to it. So you see they got logged there, and if we refresh the page, you'll see that we got those 3 values in a new snapshot. And what's cool about these event listeners is if we delete some data, and I'll go ahead and just open these two side by side. So if we delete data, over here our application is going to receive that change pretty much right away. And this is really, really useful, and we can use this to just update the DOM dynamically. So one other change that we're going to want to go ahead and do before we get too much further into this application is we're going to want to change the timestamps from logging this weird little date object. So we don't understand what that is. So let's go ahead and open up the application in Sublime, index.html in Sublime. And right here where we're doing a new current time date.now, well, we're going to want to find a function that logs something that's more easier for us to decipher. So I'm going to find JavaScript timestamp, and I actually had searched something in that was perfect. So JavaScript date format, here we go, with we're going to want the month, the day, the year, the hours, the minutes, and the second of this timestamp that they do. And I'm going to give a quick shout out to whatever this website is because they have a perfect function that I need. And I'll go ahead and put a link in the description, but it's tylerfrankenstein.com, and he has this function here that is pretty much going to call a new timestamp. And I'm going to go ahead and just paste it into my code, and I'm going to indent here. And then I'm going to actually rename this. I don't really like the function name. I'm going to name it formatted, get new formatted date. Okay, and I'm going to save that. And right here we have current time is equal to date.now. We'll instead change it to this new function. So if we put, I'm going to just copy that straight up and going to change date.now to get new date format, and we'll save that. We'll refresh the page, and before we do, let me go ahead and open up the database side by side so we can view what this new timestamp might look like. So in the time clock page, I'm going to refresh it, and then I'm going to start logging some values, and you see that the new date values that we get is something that's more legible for humans, or readable, sorry, for humans. And this is going to get extremely useful right now when we start parsing the data, and we'll put it into the application itself right here. So you know what? I was going to do it in this video. We're going to save it for the next one. I don't want to make this one too long, but in the next video, we're going to start refreshing this div right here as we as we receive changes to values in this database here. All right, guys, thank you.